All right, we're live. I think the clock's ticking. Okay, so come on in, everybody. Hopefully you can make it. If not, and you watch this later, hope you enjoy what we're going to put together here. We go through the Champions League slate of this week pretty quickly, so we can see if we got any bets we want to make. Wearing my SC Freiburg shirt because when they have a player that's basically my name, and he's one of their best, got to support him. But unfortunately, same guy gave up, I think, 3 goals this week from mistakes, and after giving up a penalty a couple days ago. So Hoffler, or whatever his name is, he probably needs to find the bench. Okay, so going in order of rotation, Lokomotiv Moscow hosts Atleti Madrid. Lokomotiv is honestly looked pretty good, despite getting some really ridiculous lines, including that first match against Salzburg where they're getting almost 2 goals, which was a draw, maybe a fortunate draw, but still a pretty weird line and not a lot of respect for them. They host Atleti, who has been struggling to score. Had another match this weekend where they kind of looked like the worst side for the first half, yet ended up winning pretty handily, and finally scoring some goals. They have some attacking talent, but I'm really not impressed by them. They certainly know how to choke out a game with a lead, though, just passing the ball in circles, and no one can ever get it on the other side. So Atleti will probably need an early goal. Given a goal and a quarter, I definitely like the dog here, especially at home, where there probably be fans in Russia based on what I've seen so far. Atleti, if they score early, you never know what's going to happen. They can probably get to 2, but it depends how long it takes them to get that first goal. I think Loco is worth a look, especially with all those Russian men's national team players that seem to be at every position for that entire team. So certainly I think there's some value in looking at Lokomotiv depending on the lineup that comes out and all that sort of stuff. I think with COVID, you can't play matches until you see lineups at this point. Next of the early games is Shakhtar Donetsk against Borussia Mönchengladbach. Gladbach is the team I follow much more closely. I don't know, even other Ukrainian teams really. But the Fohlen, they had a good win this weekend against Leipzig after a pretty bad collapse against Real Madrid, leading 2-0, almost up 3-0 if they had finished a one-on-one chance. Didn't do it, gave up 2 goals late to Real Madrid, who has not looked very good. That was pretty disappointing. But they followed up this weekend, played pretty well. Maybe Mbolo got a little bit of a knock, but he looks like he's going to play and probably is a second string striker or offensive player anyway. Shakhtar Donetsk, they beat Madrid at the height of Madrid's problems, and then with a pretty rotated side due to COVID. Then took a 0-0 draw with Inter, which is a big improvement from when they played in the semifinal this summer. They're playing well, hard to argue with, and only getting a quarter of a goal at home shows some respect for how they performed so far. I'm just not sure it's good enough, considering they're an inferior side really at home. They should have some fans there, but they don't really play at a home field environment. I think because their club is located in Crimea or somewhere that's in dispute or a war's going on. Sorry, my global politics are not great. But anyway, don't see a lot there, so I'll move on to the next one. RB Salzburg, they score a lot of goals. They're hosting Bayern Munich, who will score even more and probably can name their score here. So 1.5 on the road seemed pretty slim for Bayern Munich, but they probably win handily. And I have very little interest in the dog here, even at a much bigger number, probably. Next, Real Madrid hosting Inter. That might be one of the better matches of the day. Real Madrid looks good this weekend. Modric is important and played a lot of minutes. Don't know if he'll be in the lineup again. But I think Hazard's goal really set them going. They were struggling in the beginning. His 41st minute goal from outside the box was beautiful, and then they got another one before half, and that was pretty much curtains for that match. But Inter gonna have to check on Lukaku's status. He didn't play this weekend. They didn't look great. They fell behind 2-0, came back, clawed back a draw, but were kind of in and out of it. Probably deserved to win, but made 2 mistakes or let the Gervinho get in behind twice, and he scored both of them. Credit him for that. Real Madrid, I think, still has big problems. Do I want to be against them? Probably. Is Inter decide to do it with? Potentially, if they're healthy. I'm not sure Lukaku is really worth it, though, or without Lukaku is worth it, because that's really the guy that gets them going offensively, and without him, I'm nervous that they might have real trouble scoring. Their defense hasn't looked great. COVID hit that, and I think in their loss to AC Milan, it didn't look very good. But you need to have a good defense against Real Madrid, because they're going to make you pay for mistakes, and Inter's might have a little more mistakes in their back line right now than you want. I still think getting a half a goal on the road with no crowd and like on the practice field, that doesn't seem to inspire anyone from Real Madrid to play. I think you got to look at Inter, especially with plus money. It probably climbs a little bit tomorrow when Lukaku's out. I think that's pretty common knowledge that everyone has in their back pocket right now, but you never know. But definitely would wait to see if this one trends toward one. There's been some pretty big movement in Champions League lines recently, so I think that's one to look at. Atalanta hosting Liverpool. Atalanta has not looked very good. Got to win this weekend finally after a really bad showing, both against Ajax and then in both Serie A matches in between their thrashing of Midtjylland, which I don't think is even impressive. They haven't looked very good. They started the year off really hot, then had a dip. Liverpool is in shambles in the back right now. They're playing guys that, I mean, a friend of mine who's a big Liverpool fan said their replacement number 47 looked fine, but I don't know. I'm not sure I agree with that. They aren't really getting the success from their press that they usually had, and that's how they usually thrash teams. Hasn't happened, and they've been really limping through. Somehow they're leading the Premier League, but which you can't complain about. Klopp's awesome and is really smart, and they've got great attackers, but they're far from what they were last year. They were bad after the lockdown, and they've been bad, I think, by very high standards, admittedly, but they have not been very good. Giving a quarter on the road probably makes sense. I think, let me check what I had for that one. I think I had Liverpool giving a half. So in the neighborhood, might end up there. Don't have a lot of faith in Liverpool, but really don't have as much faith in Atalanta as I did before Champions League started. And we'll get to that little tidbit later. Man City -2 at home against Olympiacos should be a blowout, but who knows? Man City's been struggling to score also, and then going conservative when they take leads. I'm not sure Olympiacos is a team that can really exploit them. Defensive pairing with Laporte and the new transfer Diaz has been a lot better. Pep loves going to score. Injuries up front don't seem to bother them. They have so many attackers that can put the ball in the net. -2 is a lot to lay in this type of event, but I'm not sure Olympiacos can defend enough. But I mean, gun to my head, I'm playing Olympiacos, so we'll see what happens. But there's definitely a lot that Man City can do to kind of leak out and score a bunch of goals. Midtjylland at home against Ajax, very surprised to see only getting a half of a goal. That seems really light to me. Ajax had a pretty good first half at Atalanta. They're not playing well either, but ultimately, I think the class or the quality and the divide in these teams is pretty significant. I rarely, if ever, play favorites, but if I was going to play one here, it is Ajax. Porto at home against Marseille. Porto got a lot of respect as the most likely team to advance from this group besides Man City before the Champions League kicked off. That was kind of surprising to me. They made some transfers and got some talent in, I think some loans, and also have Pepe back there to really piss people off and mess with the forwards. I think that's important. Marseille is kind of, I was listening to a League One podcast or League 1, and they're just stuck in between. They don't really have the speed. They don't really have the possession. They're okay and probably will defend here today. That almost worked against Olympiacos in Athens, but then they took their strikers off, or attackers off, really, and the left back tried to dive to get a call, turned it over, crossed in the box, and then they lost 1-0. That was a huge blow to their advanced chances. They need a draw here, and will probably defend, which does interest me a little bit at getting a half of a goal at plus money. Probably trends a little higher, and if they lose by a goal, like they did in Athens, and ultimately you lose half a stake if it moves up to 3/4 of a goal. So that's somewhat interesting to me. We'll see what happens. Like I said, lineups we all want to check. Then moving to Wednesday, early start is Zenit hosting Lazio. Lazio's had some issues with with COVID. Pulled off a draw against Bruges in their last Champions League match, which was surprising. That people were happy about it, but I think they were behind early, and then ultimately, or maybe it was just the COVID situation that they were playing backups, and that was a big deal. I don't know what to say about that, but Zenit they seem to control the Russian league. How different is that from Serie A? It seems pretty different to me. But Lazio, you got to check lineups because who knows who's available, and the more available guys, the more you want to kind of look at that pick'em, because that's a pretty soft line depending on who's healthy and who's in there. So that's certainly one to watch, especially if some money comes in on the Russian side and moves it significantly. The other early match is Başakşehir against Manchester United. Man United struggling in Premier League play, but have been awesome in this tournament. I thought Başakşehir, good luck me pronouncing it, Istanbul. I thought they were pretty good and gave PSG really all they wanted, but kind of had a really unfortunate ending to the match that really screwed anyone who backed them. Sorry if you had them last week. But could see that being a little bit of a close one playing in Turkey. United's definitely still licking their wounds off of the loss to Arsenal, who hasn't been scoring at all, but Pogba giving a really dumb penalty. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows about that. But Manchester United's form in Champions League has been pretty good. And I think Ole will probably go away from Pogba, and that's probably the best lineup that Manchester United can play right now. Next is Leipzig against PSG. Leipzig, hard to say. They had a lot of possession in that Manchester United game. Fell behind 1-0 on a counterattack, and then really fell apart after they gave the second, probably third goal. Then got worse and worse. Losing 5-0 is pretty bad. Good thing that seems like unless there's a three-way tie, goal differential doesn't really matter. It's only about the matches that you play. So Leipzig looks like they don't want to be tied with Manchester United, but if they're tied somehow in the standings towards the end of PSG, that's a good opportunity for them to move on. Catching a quarter of a goal at home, seems a little bit light to me right now. PSG, not really sure what to say about them. And you got to check Neymar's status as he left the match early recently. But Mbappe's really scary. PSG controlled this match before in the Champions League semifinal, I think it was. Pretty impressive. And I think they really took it to him. And not much has changed since then. Leipzig still without Werner, but that didn't seem to matter. And they didn't really look that good this weekend. I think on the road, but I think Mönchengladbach really had that game in their hands for most of the match. And so I think you got to look at the PSG side here, if anything, especially with Leipzig being a little bit short. I thought I might be interested in Leipzig here, but I'm not feeling that at the moment. Certainly we'll see about lineups, and if Neymar's still in there, then things might change a little bit if he's out or something like that. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, any interest I had in Leipzig, I think, is drying up based on the recent performances. It seems like they're great in domestic play in Germany when they kind of know what their opponents are doing and they know they have a style that works. I'm not sure how good it is internationally, especially in the Champions League competition. Ferencváros hosting Juventus. I imagine that Ronaldo plays after returning and playing off the bench, and I think scoring a goal this weekend, maybe two, I think at least one. Juventus has had real trouble scoring, but with Dybala coming back and now Ronaldo and then Kulusevski coming off the bench, they're looking a little bit more deep. They're looking a little deeper than they were. Pirlo still has plenty of questions, but I don't really even know what to expect from Ferencváros. Will certainly sit behind the ball the whole time, and catching nearly 2 goals at home is meaningful. Maybe some Ronaldo being in the lineup will push that over to a full 2. Is that still enough to get in there? I'm not sure, because an early goal really puts a big fork in the road that doesn't end well for Ferencváros. Maybe a stake in the heart is probably a little more accurate. Barca hosting Dynamo Kiev. Giving 2.5 goals is monstrous. Barcelona was pretty bad this weekend. Got down. Alaves got down to 10 men, and Barcelona didn't really have a lot of answers. Messi has not looked very good. He gets all the comments from Ray Hudson, whatever his name is. It's hard to say that he's. I mean, he still sets up people, and He does a lot of messy things, and he never misses a penalty, it seems. But I just don't know enough about Kiev to really respect them. But I guess this is the next Ukrainian team that we're talking about. So at least there's two. Bruges hosting Dortmund seems short, but Dortmund lines have been pretty short a lot, and losing to Lazio was a pretty good pat on the back to people who kept that line short. They played well this weekend. Dortmund did. Sort of. I guess you can give them that because they ended up winning, but they got 2 goals from a center back, Mats Hummels, who then pulled up lame, I think. Holland didn't play due to a knee injury. I imagine he's going to be available for this match. I think they were just resting him, but he might not be there. And then he and Reina are really important to their lineup, which seems to be an offensive-based approach. I imagine Bruce is going to sit behind the ball the whole time, and catching less than a goal, even at home, is not worth it, in my opinion. Sevilla next, hosting Krasnodar. Giving a pretty big price for Sevilla, considering they don't score a lot of goals, ultimately. They controlled their last match against Rennes, but could have won 3-4-0, only won 1-0, and it was a little bit hard for them, even dominating chances and possession, to try to put the ball in the net. And I don't really see that changing. Krasnodar, they played Chelsea pretty tight. It was at home, so that's a different scenario here. But Chelsea's a better attacking side, and Krasnodar was in it until the floodgates opened once one thing went the wrong way, and then another thing, and another thing, another thing. It's amazing how the race to 1 in this sport is so real. Whoever scores the first goal, that changes everything. If there's no goals, the dog wins and covers, obviously. But as soon as that first goal scores, then the -2s that you're seeing for Man City and other big clubs, there's not a lot of protection in that, because if you have to push forward up while trailing 1-0, you're way more likely as an underdog to, I feel like, lose 2-0 than you are to tie it at 1-1. And how often does it really hang out 1-0 for if there's a goal in the first half? I feel like it doesn't happen very often. And then any sort of underdog price that you're getting is gets weaker by the second. Last match, I don't see a point spread on, but I think Chelsea's about 1.5 against Rennes. Dave Mason, get your shit together. But at least I guess the website hasn't gone down for an entire NFL weekend or college football weekend, or I'm sure that was worse for their company than me. But anyway, Rennes, I think, got 1 point in their continental play last year, and was a disaster. It's looking kind of like that's going to happen again after drawing Krasnodar. Chelsea probably names their score. Pulisic being out is not good, but they kind of like a Man City thing. They got a lot of attackers up front, so health isn't as big of an issue there. And then someone asked me to update on futures I had for Champions League. They're looking so-so, I'll say. Sevilla to win their group had a pretty good 0-0 draw at Chelsea, though away goals might be an issue if they end up tying at the top of the group. Can't really complain, though, being tied with Chelsea and having a home match to potentially really swing the group in their favor. Atalanta is trailing Liverpool, and what I thought was going to be a bet for me when they played. I'm not sure I'm going to do even as a home dog here. Doesn't really look great to me. And I think my other last one is Leipzig to win the whole thing, just because it's a pretty big number, and I thought they would advance over Manchester United. That's not looking good. Now they're going to really have to go after and knock out PSG, which doesn't look really good either. PSG hasn't really had an incredible year, but they don't have a lot of tests in France, and that's really good for them. Whereas Germany's going to demand more out of Red Bull Leipzig, and that's probably why they're such a big number. Ultimately, I like taking big, long shots and then ultimately seeing how far they go. Sometimes they go really well, like Texas Tech a few years ago, within a bad closeout from winning the championship at 125-1. Oh, man, that would have been nice. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Unfortunately, this is my first YouTube live. I'm not really seeing any comments. So, and I'm very happy this is less than 20 minutes, especially late after Monday Night Football. Apologies for coming out late, but this was the time I had when I could do it. And want to get out there for all you early risers and for anybody that wants to bet before games start tomorrow afternoon. So I think I'm going to end the stream here. Thank you, anybody who watched or for joining. I really appreciate it, and good luck tomorrow. I guess the next 2 days, I'll probably come back with another one of these for the weekend slate of the top 5 or the biggest 5 European leagues. Adios. For real.